Yeah. So yeah. Thank you very much for being with us tonight in this the second webinar with the Sprinthub, and this webinar is about the business analysis workshop where we have Dr. George Bridge is actually is holding like more than my age as experience basically. It's like 40 years experience in the industry between project management and business analytics and so on. And he's the founder of Bridge Consulting and also the president of business analytics chapters in Michigan, USA. So most welcome, Dr. George, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Abdel. Welcome, everyone. Abdel and I met. It was very unusual. We met in Riyadh. When I met him, I was trying to get into one of the facilities there in telecom, and he gave me a ride to the building. And later on, we had coffee together, and we realized that we had met weeks ago. I didn't even know it. So
Yeah.
so Abdel is he's a person that I personally have met, and we've had coffee and dinner together. So just want to say that he's a good guy, and thank you guys very much for attending, and thank you, Abdel, for allowing me to do this webinar. I appreciate that. Okay, and Sprinthub. All right, so we're going to be talking about today business analysis, and it's a topic that I think is very timely for industry and for people who are new to perhaps development of different types of solutions. My background is engineering and mathematics, and I've worked with a number of companies. Ford Motor Company, one, developing automobiles, and then Unisys Corporation developing computers. And I would say that having a business analyst background is very helpful. Even though during those times I was not considered a business analyst, I was considered more of an operations research analyst. And I have extensive experience in project management. I do hold certification, project management, PMP certification. I hold the PMI PBA, which is a project business analyst certification, and also recently the certification for business data analytics. Now we're going to be talking about certification for business analysis, and I want you to, as we go through, listen to what business analysis is all about and how business analysis can help you within your organization, or if you're just starting out and you are starting a business, how business analysis can help you with your business. All right, so here's a nice quote that I think is pretty good, even though it was out for a while, and that's about the future, right? The future isn't tomorrow. Really, we're living in the future now. You know, it's evenly distributed for us. So the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So when we think about doing things, we want to think about doing things that perhaps will lead us to some destination in the future. But in order for us to get to that, we have to do the things now that's necessary in order to do that. So you taking this time to listen to this webinar is an investment into your future. And we hopefully this is going to pay off for you. So when you are training or when you're in development and when you're trying to learn new things, you know, we go through this process of learning something. We learn it, we get some training on it, we have to understand what we're learning. Then we have to decide on what we're going to do based on what we've learned, and then we have to take action, right? There's a lot of people that learn things, but they don't understand. There's a lot of people that understand things, but they don't make a decision. There's a lot of people that go through these steps, but they don't take any action. And so as you are picking up things from what we're talking about, we want you to get to the point where you're going to take some type of action in your career, in your business, and with the organizations that you are a part of. Here's a little bit of information about innovation and market. There are only two things in a business that makes money. And you're in business to make money if you're going to go in business, unless you're a nonprofit, right? And that's innovation and marketing. And the Sprinthub is about helping you to learn how to innovate and how to market your business. And if you're not doing those two things, then everything else is going to cost, right? So you're in the process of learning how to innovate. So where are you going to take your practice? Where are you going to take your career? What's the path for you in terms of what it is you want to do? You need to decide on a path, decide on a career goal, decide on where you want to go. Now, sometimes people don't make a decision because they think, well, I don't really know exactly where I want to go, but you need to have at least a destination and start towards that destination, right? The worst thing that you can do in your career is to procrastinate, put off what you can do today, or not get involved, or not do things that's necessary for your growth. And so by participating in this, hopefully we're going to give you some information that will allow you to make some decisions about what it is you want to do. Now, some of you may go directly into business analysis. Some of you may hire people who are business analysts. Some of you may come in at a different level as far as business analysis is concerned. But where is it that you want to go, and what is it that you want to do? My background is engineering. My background is industrial engineering. My background is with computers. My background is with working with automobiles and working with a number of different industries. And so how did I get there? Well, by investing in training, by investing in getting the education that was needed in order to do that. So we're going to talk about business analysis and why business analysis is important, right? As a project manager, right, one of the things that you do when you're a project manager is you take on a project and you take it from beginning to end. Your company or your organization is going to empower you to get the work done. You have to manage the costs, you have to manage the schedule, you have to manage the resources, you have to manage the time. Now, you're trying to produce something that's going to be of value to that organization, right? That thing that you're going to produce then is your deliverable, right? It's something that you're going to deliver. And what does that deliverable do? It allows that organization to solve some type of problem. It could be a process improvement, it could be a product, it could be a new service, but it's a deliverable. Now, the project manager is going to manage the project, but the business analyst is going to manage that solution, that deliverable, and defining that deliverable. And a lot of times projects are not successful because the deliverables and the solution have not been defined properly. So what we can see here as far as products is concerned, and you being either new to business or new to industry or just starting off, right? When you have a product, right, there's a product scope, right? And that product scope is you have an idea about doing something, but you're not sure exactly how you're going to implement that idea. The business analyst is the one who's going to be involved in the early phases of defining that product scope, right? Now, this is a vision of where you want to go. This is a vision of the solution. Now, let me back up a minute now. Before we define that product scope, we have to have a need, or we have to have a problem that has to be solved. And so whatever that problem is that has to be solved, the business analyst is going to understand and define that problem in a way that they can now come up with a solution to that problem by developing a product or a service or something that's going to solve the problem. And guess who does that? The business analyst. Now, the business analyst, the way that they are able to convince others to act on developing that product is they have to develop a business case. Now, they may do it by themselves or they may do it in conjunction with other people, but the business case is basically the justification for doing something. It's the defining the return on an investment. Is it worth doing, right? Is it going to solve the problem? Now, if we don't define the product scope correctly, that means we may be solving the wrong problem. Okay, we don't want to invest our time and our energy in solving the symptom, because when you try to put a solution towards a symptom, the problem doesn't go away. The problem still exists. So part of the role and the responsibility of the business analyst is to ensure that the organization is solving the right problem. And the business analyst is going to come up with options as to how to solve that problem. Now, where the project manager comes in is that third rectangle is shown here, is at the project charter. So the project managers come in at the project charter, they're going to produce the project plan, the project manager is going to implement that. But notice that the business analyst is involved in the early stages. Not to say that the business analyst is not involved during the project phase, but the role of the business analyst is going to change once you're in the project phase. Now, here are some of the things that the business analyst will be involved in. They'll be involved in planning the business analysis work, defining the as-is process, what we're doing currently. They're going to be defining the gap between what we have now and what we want to have in the future. They will be gathering information that's going to help them to define the requirements. Now, what is a requirement? You need to understand that. There are studies after studies that say that projects fail, right, because of not having good requirements, not managing those requirements properly, okay? And so a big reason for project failure, and you could say for business failure, is that you're not working on defining the requirements properly. There could be multiple solutions. The BA could be involved in that. You can see that the BA is involved also in testing and verification, as well as being able to transfer the skills that they have into the development community. Now, from a project management standpoint, if we look at this, we can see what the project manager does and kind of compare that to what the BA does. The project manager is looking at the time it takes to do things. The project manager is helping to prioritize those tasks that are needed in order to complete and fulfill that project. The project manager might be bridging the gap between the corporate functions and letting them know what's going on, and maybe optimizing the resources or the processes that are involved and keeping some communication open with the teams that they are involved with. The project manager role and the BA role sometimes overlap, and some people are, they're concerned because they believe that some of the things that the BA does is what the project manager does and vice versa. I will say that in my career, there are people who have the title of a project manager, but they do business analysis. And there are some people who have the title of a business analyst and they do project management. So in some cases, you can have multiple hats when you're working with project management and business analysis. Right. Now, what does this practice do for you? Well, we're in a time of change. Things are constantly changing, and we have to adapt to those changes. Sometimes the changes are things that we are responsible for. Sometimes they're changes that are imposed on us. But we are in the practice of enabling that change and helping the organization to define the needs that has to be handled. Now, we don't want to do change just for the sake of doing change. We have to be able to add value. So the bottom line to what you do as a business analyst is to enable change, but enable it in such a way that it adds value to the organization. And I can give you a number of examples of how a business analyst can do that. One of the projects that I was just talking about yesterday with some of the BAs was a project related to improving the amount of money that can be made by having your money invested in your bank sooner. I'll give you an example of that. As an operations research analyst working for Ford Motor Company, back when you paid your mortgage, when you paid for your vehicle, you paid it by check. And in the United States, what you had is your check would go to a certain city like New York or Atlanta or Chicago, or if you're on the West Coast, it would go to Los Angeles. And so we were called in to study that and to look at that particular process. Now, from a small business standpoint, that doesn't, it's not much. But when you're talking about a company as large as Ford Motor Company, you're talking about millions of dollars sitting in a lockbox in these different cities. And so the difference of being able to take that money and get it into the bank one day early, that means if you take $1 million or over $1 million and get it into your bank a day early, that means you earn 1 day of interest. And for the volume of checks that are sitting in these mailboxes, that's a lot of money. Okay, so how were we able to help them? We analyzed the situation, and the solution was simple. The solution was not an automated solution. The solution was really a manual solution. And that solution was that the company would hire bonded representatives to go to each one of these cities, or if they lived in the city, to go to those lock boxes, withdraw the money from the lock boxes in those mailboxes and put them in the local bank. And with that, the company was able to generate just millions of dollars in interest by getting their money into their bank sooner. Okay, so that's a business analysis example. The solution was somewhat manual. Well, it was manual, but we were able to add value to that organization. And so what you do as a business analyst then is you're going to look at your processes, you're going to look at those things that's going to help the organization to add value and improve their bottom line. So what is business analysis? Business analysis then is enables the enterprise to articulate needs and the rationale. Why are we changing? And then you're going to design and describe solutions that's going to deliver value. Now, you see the word solution is not just one solution for every problem. If you're involved in engineering, you know that there's more than one solution to a problem. The question is, what's the best solution? What is the best solution for the organization? What's going to add more value to that organization and also fits within the constraints and the culture of the organization? So that's somewhat of a basis for the what a business analyst can do and the rationale for having a business analyst. Now, what I'd like to do now is to talk about some foundation concepts. The foundation concepts that we are going to be discussing here are the foundation concepts that comes from the IIBA. The IIBA is the International Institute for Business Analysts. And when I talk about the IIBA and the Project Management Institute, the thing that comes to mind for me is the fact that they create the standards, right? And why are standards important? You know, I'm in Michigan now. Abdel is in Riyadh, and you're watching us more of you are watching us from Algeria. Okay, some of you may be watching us because you found the link and you're watching us from other locations. Why is it possible that you can see me, you can hear me, I can talk to Abdel, you can hear us, you can communicate with us? I'll tell you why why you can do that. You can do that because of standards. The telecommunication standards are so well defined that it allows us to do this communication, right? I may be talking to you using a Windows operating system, but you're using a Mac, and the signals are going through the internet through different locations. But it's because of the standards that allows us to communicate. So when we're talking about business analysis and we're talking about project management, the thing that makes it what it is as far as value is the fact that we start to agree on some standards that we can all communicate. And with that standards, what it does, it takes out the ambiguity. It takes out the problems of communication because we're talking about the same thing. And when I use terms, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So here is the business analyst defined by the BABOK. The BABOK is the standard, business analysis body of knowledge. So a business analyst is any person, notice the word any person who performs business analysis tasks. So you don't have to have a title, or you don't have to have a degree, or you don't have to be certified as a business analyst. If you are performing these tasks that I'm going to be talking about, then you are a business analyst. You're working as a business analyst. So no matter what your job is or title, if you're doing the work, this is how the IIBA has defined it. If you're doing the work that's defined as the task that they recognize, you're doing business analysis. So the business analyst then is going to play a role in aligning the design and the delivery of the solution to the needs of the stakeholders, right? Remember that we start off with understanding the needs of the stakeholders. And I like to think of it this way. Let's say you're at one location and you're going on a trip, you're going somewhere, you know where you're starting out, you have some idea of where you want to go, right? That's your destination, right? And what you normally do if you're going on vacation, you get a brochure and you look at where the place is. There are some things about the location. Maybe you want to go to a cold climate and do skiing, or maybe you want to go to a warm climate and do some surfing, or maybe you like fishing or whatever. But you look at that destination, you look at the picture of that destination. So that's like defining designing the solution. The need is I need to get from where I am now to that particular destination. So there's a lot of planning that I have to do. But before I even take off on my journey, I know where I'm going. And that's what the business analyst is going to do. The business analyst is going to define and design that solution, or define that destination, and then communicate that out to the rest of their stakeholders. In the case of going on a vacation, your stakeholders are your family, right? The people that are going to be going with you on that vacation. Now, here are some typical titles, and sometimes people get hung up on titles, but here's some typical titles about a business analyst. A person can operate as a business architect, or business systems analyst, a data analyst, enterprise analyst. Some of you may be in business and entrepreneurs. This is a good opportunity for you to apply this business analysis skill as a management consultant. You can go into a business and look at their problems and then look for ways to help them to solve their problem. Maybe you might be a process analyst, or a product manager, or a product owner. You know, if you're working with Agile, and everybody's familiar with Agile now because that's the buzzword. You know, in Agile, you talk about a product manager and a product owner, right? In times past, people were requirements engineers, and there's still some requirements engineers that are out there. They're very technical about requirements. And then you have what we call the systems analyst as well. So here's some common job titles that you might see as it relates to business analysis. So if we look at the business analyst, I'd like to do this. Abdel is going to be able to look in the chat. I'd like you to communicate as I go through now, and put in chat, or if you have the opportunity to put something in chat. Abdel, can they do that? Can they add something to chat? What are the, can they do that now?
Yeah.
Okay, if you could put in the chat, what are some of the job functions you think that a business analyst do? So I'll give you maybe a minute or so to do that. And as they come through, Abdel can tell us what some of the job functions are that he's seeing. So I'm asking you to give me some feedback now.
Yeah. So what's the question?
The question is, what are the job functions that a business analyst performs?
Okay, good.
Any feedback yet?
Yeah, send.
Okay, go ahead and tell us what some of the feedback is, please.
Yeah, just waiting for feedback if somebody will answer that.
Okay. We're definitely going to give you some answers, but we want to hear what you have to say about some of the things that you know that a BA work that the BA performs. Okay, just look. Right.
Move on, and if there is any answer, I'll let you know. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So when the BA is involved in working with the organization, the BA is looking at adding value to the organization, and the BA is operating as a change manager, working with change.
We have Amira. She's saying predict the result based on the action done.
Okay, predict the results based on the action.
Yes, based on the action done.
Okay, based on the action done. Okay, yes. Okay, good. So,
and Miriam, she's saying define client needs.
Okay, excellent. That's good. Define the client needs, predict the results based on the action taken. Those are good. Anything else?
Just waiting.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So there is some people, are focusing on the subject. Is good. And
okay.
We have Kareem. He's saying, analyze problems and needs and see how to solve them by providing value added.
I like that. Okay, repeat that again. Analyze the problems
analyze problems and needs and see
Yes,
how to solve them by providing value add.
very good. All
Yeah,
right.
very good.
That's a good one. That's a one sentence. It includes a lot of things that a BA does. So that's a good answer for what a BA does from a function standpoint. Excellent.
All right, so let's move on. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about value and change. So what we want to do is when we create value, we have to create superior, let me go back, superior value for our customers. And we also want to be able to not to use all the resources. We want to minimize the resources, with integrity, and we want to be able to provide good profit, for our organization, right? So let's say you have a problem. Let's say that problem is defined, and once you know what the problem is, you say that there's a solution A, B, and C, right? Each one of those solutions is going to have a cost associated with it. Each one of those solutions is going to have benefits associated with it, right? And if you do the math, the cost benefit analysis or the return on investment, you know that one solution might be a better fit than the others based on just the numbers itself. But we know that there are non-monetary conditions that we need to look at in order to ensure that the solution works. But each solution that we recommend is going to solve whatever problem that might exist. Now, here's another question as you're talking about the functions of the BA. In what ways can the BA add value to your organization? And in what way can the BA decrease cost to your organization? So I'm going to put these two questions out. From what you know, and I'm not saying that you're the expert. I'm not asking you to be the expert in business analysis, but from what you know, how can you see the BA increasing the value to the organization? And from what you know or from what you experience, and a lot of you may just be fresh out of college, right? Maybe you don't have a lot of experience, but I want you to start thinking about what you can do to add value to that organization that you might be going into, or how can you help them to save money. Okay, so think about that, and if you have some ideas on that, I'm going to share what I have, but if you have some ideas on that, put that in chat, and Abdel will also tell me what you come up with as some feedback back to us. Okay. I will just summarize then some of the things that will help you to add value to the organization. One of the things that you can do is enable a sense of urgency. Sometimes organizations don't do things because they don't think it's urgent, and so they sit and then they wait and they don't get value because they don't respond as soon as they should. Sometimes when it comes to decision makers, they may not understand the needs of the end users. So the business analyst becomes the voice of the customer. Okay. The other thing that a business analyst does is that the business analyst becomes a liaison. Remember this word, liaison, between the business and the technical team. Why is that important? Why does there have to be a liaison between the business and the technical team? The business is the consumer of the solution. The technical team is the developer of the solution. If the technical team is not developing the right solution, then it's not going to add the proper value to the business. If the business can't describe their problem properly to the technical team, it's going to be very difficult for the technical team then to deliver a solution that's going to solve their problem. Sometimes, the cost to solve the problem might be too much for one particular end user, but if you can get a group of end users together, maybe they can form a coalition and convince management to move on that solution. The other thing that I think is important, is very important, I believe, is being able to communicate the vision. Okay, remember that, communicating the vision. Why is that important? When you have change in an organization, people, this intuitively, people resist change. They resist change because they fear change, and they resist change because they fear the unknown. Okay. When there's something new that's coming out, people can't see it. They can't visualize it. I'll give you a case in point. What is the value of right now? Can you visualize the value of blockchain? Can you visualize the value of the Internet of Things? Can you visualize the value of 3D printing? The reason why people don't act on change is because they can't see, we don't know the future, but they can't see the value that might come from a particular solution. All right. Now, I say I'm going to give you a case in point. When the internet was new, a lot of people didn't see the value of the internet. Back in the 90s, people had no idea that the internet would actually be where we are now. But what about those people that actually saw the value of that? What about the people that took advantage of the value of the internet? What about e-commerce? Okay, who would have thought that a lot of the transactions that we perform today would be done through e-commerce? So one of the things that you have to do when you're trying to facilitate change is to communicate the vision to people. You know, people fear losing their job. They fear losing their power. They fear losing their reputation because they don't understand where things are going. You know, think about, and I don't know, how big is Abdel? How big is Uber in? I know Uber actually is pretty big right now, or has when I was there last year, it was pretty big in Riyadh. How about in Algeria? Is it something that people do or don't do?
Actually, Uber, which recently owned Kareem, they started recently in Algeria, so they're just on the growth phase, you know.
Yes, yes. Now, who would have predicted the value of a business like a Uber, right, when it first came out?
Yeah, from my point of view, it was really disruptive idea, and people they didn't even think about how it can bring value to the society.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, at all.
And so the people who had the vision of the solution,
Yeah,
they knew, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. If you allow me about the change and why people resist to change, there is something which is, I think, nature in a human being, which is the our mind is designed to protect
Yes,
us, from anything scary, or it might hurt us in the future, so that's why people they always care about the future because they don't see the value as you like you said. So the brain is always try to keep us alive and safe. So
yes,
that's the things which make difficult to people can change quickly or adapt.
yes, yes. And so that's why I'm circling that bottom line is that you have to be a communicator of the future, what the future is going to look like, what the benefits are going to be. And you do that, you don't do that blindly. You do that from the standpoint because you know based on your research, maybe based on looking at what others have done, you can show that this can be applied to your particular area. So you have to take out that that fear and create a picture that people can see and understand. Now, here are some ways that BAs can help change. I mentioned some of these earlier. They can help by creating a sense of urgency, a guiding coalition, creating a vision, maybe getting people to volunteer to help with certain things. A lot of times people don't change because certain organizations or people or situations have barriers. Those barriers are put there. So we have to remove barriers. We also have to show, maybe we don't show a long-term win, but we show a series of short-term wins.
We do have
And
a question here, George, if you allow me.
yes, go ahead.
Radwan, he said, I think at the first we must to know how people apply the change. So
Yes,
yeah, it's like we must to show people how they apply it, so they cannot
yes,
resist.
yeah, yes. Yeah, you have to show them. That's what showing them, if I can add to what you're saying, showing them is like communicating the vision. You know, sometimes we communicate the vision by telling people something, you know, by speaking. Sometimes we communicate the vision by drawing a picture so they can see it, right? And then sometimes what we do is we draw an analogy between perhaps something that has been done in the past and what we believe to be in the future. Now, let me say this. When there's change, there's always risk, right? We're not saying that there is no risk. There's always risk associated with it. But when you talk about Abdel, you're talking about the brain is designed to protect you, right, from certain things. You know, you try that's. But when you analyze the risk, then the risk then helps you to realize that, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen, right? How much can we actually lose if we do this? But when you're analyzing risk, you got to think about what is the risk of not doing it, and you have to think about what is the risk of doing it. So sometimes there's a risk for not making the change, right? What about the people who didn't make the change for what we have now as far as distance learning? There was a risk associated with it. Now they have to catch up because everybody's forced to do distance learning, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So this goes to the name of your and the background of your company. That is, you have an accelerator, right? You have an accelerator program. And so when we talk about change, in some cases there has to be some acceleration that takes place, and then we want to what we call anchor the change or institute the change so that the change is actually rooted and grounded. You know, sometimes you'll have things that change, but then people get so upset and it becomes so problematic that they move away from that change and it's not grounded and they go back to the way they were currently doing things. All right. So I'm not going to ask you these questions. These are some questions to think about. Situations where you have seen, I will ask you this, you can put it in chat if you like. Situations where you have seen successful change, and then situations where you've seen not so successful change. So if you have some things you want to put in chat, Abdel will be looking at that. So what are some of the successful change that you are aware of in your work environment or your culture or your environment? And what are some of the unsuccessful change that you have seen, okay, in your current environment? And why? Why were they successful? Why were they not so successful? Okay. Now, as you're bringing that in, if there's any questions or any feedback, you can go ahead and give them to me. But I just want to do a real brief comparison of the product manager or product owner and the business analyst, right? So the product owner role in the agile world, the product owner is they have the portfolio, they might be involved with the client, they have the vision of the solution, they produce models, they're more customer focused, they're more product market oriented, and then if you're working in agile, they do backlog grooming. For the business analyst will create use cases, functional specs, models. They'll do rule documentation, requirements gathering, and then they'll develop training material. Now, in the overlap of these two roles, you see that they both will be involved in tactical things and strategic things as well. Story writing and gathering, product management, product strategy, and somewhat of a system focus. So this is one view of a comparison of the role of the product manager and the business analyst. I like to say too, also, if you find yourself in an agile environment, right, working in agile, and agile is pretty popular right now. Organizations we're seeing now are having their BAs to operate as product owner representatives, okay? They represent the product owner. So I need to make sure you understand that if you are involved in some type of agile project. All products, depending on the product that you have, will go through life cycles. A product might have several projects related to it, right? For instance, when I was working in automotive, you're building an automobile, you have the engine project, you have the actual frame of the vehicle, you have the electrical system. So you got a lot of projects that are going on in order to build that vehicle. And in some cases, instead of calling it product lifecycle, we might say it's the program that we're dealing with. Now we're going to make a little switch here as we finish out, and we're going to talk about the body of knowledge and what you need to know about the body of knowledge. The body of knowledge is shown here, the business analysis body of knowledge. There's 6 areas that you need to be familiar with. Now we're talking about the standards, the language of the business analyst from a standard standpoint, and then what are the competencies. Now, remember, you're trying to get, or you might be looking for certification. We hope you're looking for certification because we want you to apply the standards because there's a reason for these standards, and these standards have been recognized by industry as being the standards that most people are going to use when they do business analysis. So one of the areas that you do when you're doing business analysis is you plan out your business analysis work, you elicit information from different people, you produce a strategy, and you develop a business case when you're producing that strategy. You do some analysis of your requirements. There's some solution evaluation that might take place even during the prototype phase. And then you have to manage the life cycle of the overall solution. Now, if you're operating or thinking of being a business analyst, you want to have good analytical thinking skills and problem solving skills. You want to be able to know how to deal with different situations. If I'm working in the oil business, I need to have some understanding of how the oil business works. If I'm working in automotive, I need to understand the automotive business. And if I'm working in the banking industry, I need to understand the banking industry. So whatever business you're in, you need to have business knowledge. Now, companies sometimes will pay you to get that business knowledge, but if you're a fresh grad or you're new, just starting out, you need to invest time, some of your time, in understanding that business. And I don't mean time on the job. I mean some of your time when you're not on the job. You need to go to trade shows. You need to go to conferences. You need to talk to people in that business to understand that business. That's going to help you, right, to learn that business. If I was going into a construction industry, right, I know a lot about automotive, I know a lot about computers, but I don't know a whole lot about construction. So I'm going to have to learn about construction in order to be effective as a business analyst, right? I also need to have good communication skills, verbal communication skills, written communication skills, and nonverbal communication skills. You have to know how to read people. You have to know how to interpret body language. Have to know how to facilitate different types of meetings, interaction skills, interacting with people, problem solving, conflict resolution, right? You need to have that type of skill as a business analyst. And then you need to understand the tools and technology. Now, you might say, well, I don't have these skills. Well, I didn't either, but I picked them up, I learned them, I grew the skills that I was good at, and I tried to improve in those areas where I needed improvement. So it's not necessary to go into business analysis and say, okay, I got to check off this box and say I got all of these skills. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you want to be aware of where you need to invest your time in order to be successful as a business analyst. Now, some people think that the business analyst works just in the IT environment. That's not true. Right? The business analyst can work on an agile project. The business analyst can work in business intelligence. The business analyst can work in information technology or business architecture, which could be outside of your IT, as well as business process management. So these are the different perspectives. Now, where you fall or what you do in these different areas is going to be different. How I do business analysis in an agile environment would be different from how I do business analysis in business process management. And the BABOK, the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, gives you the guidelines for how you are to operate in those different areas. So Abdel, has there been any other comments that have come across so far before I show this video?
So far, no question.
No questions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a little short video that I think is pretty informative about the different levels of business analysis. And I'd like for you to listen to this. It's about a 7-minute video. And I think you'll be able to get something out of it. So I'm going to click on this, and please listen, take notes about the entry level to senior business analyst and how it's explained here.
All right, for this video, I wanted to really quickly explain what the difference is between an entry level and a senior business analyst. This can be very confusing for somebody who's not in the profession, because it seems as though the responsibilities of an entry level business analyst, or a junior business analyst, or a business analyst 1, business analyst 2, senior business analyst, and so forth, is essentially the same thing. So what's really the difference, between when you get started and when you have more experience? And I think for me, the easiest way to explain this to especially somebody who's not already in the profession and is just trying to understand how it all works is to relate it to cooking. When you're an entry-level business analyst, you essentially don't really know anything about cooking. So you're essentially going to follow a recipe. You're not going to decide on the ingredients. You're not going to decide on how you're going to cook it. You're essentially being given the food, being given the list of steps to take to create that food, and then you're just going to follow it. You don't ask questions. You don't make modifications. You just kind of do it because you're just learning the basics. For an entry-level business analyst, this might be the same thing. You might, tell a new business analyst, hey, can you go document all the data requirements of this particular interface? What's the data? What's it used for, etc. Or you might say, go document the as-is process, which is literally just talking to the people who do it, and saying, hey, what is it that you do, and why do you do it? You didn't come up with the idea to do these activities. Somebody's probably directing you to do them, but nonetheless, you're still capable of doing them. Once you move on from, kind of just following the recipe, then you kind of move on to being able to just cook dishes. You're not necessarily coming up with dishes, but somebody can say, hey, can you make this particular dish? And because you followed the recipe enough times, you feel pretty confident that you can just, go into the kitchen, find the ingredients, most likely the same ingredients that you use when you were following the recipe, but this time you don't need the recipe, and you can cook the same dish. So, there are probably some things you can kind of eye, like you're probably not measuring tablespoons and teaspoons anymore. You just know you need about this much to this much. But for the most part, you're still kind of following that same recipe that you were given. And as a junior business analyst or a business analyst 1, it's kind of the same thing. You've documented interfaces, you've documented as-is processes as you've been told to do so already in the past. So now when somebody tells you go start the analysis, you can do that. You can just jump in, you can start asking the same questions you've been told to ask in the past, start documenting some of the same things that you've documented in the past. The real difference here is, when you encounter something challenging or something you're not quite sure what to do with, more than likely, you'll still seek the mentorship of a more senior business analyst. Just like in the kitchen, if say you're out of a particular ingredient, you might consult a more senior chef on what would be potentially a good substitute ingredient, or whether the dish will probably still be okay if you leave that ingredient out, or whatever the case may be. All right, so once you're done being told exactly the dishes that you need to cook, next you're at the point where you're just told, hey, I'm in the mood for beef tonight, or hey, I'm in the mood for chicken, and you can get into that kitchen and create a dish without much direction. You understand the ingredients, you know what ingredients are available to you, you know different cooking techniques, you know how to cook in the oven and on the stovetop and all of that. So you're comfortable with all the techniques, you're comfortable that you've experienced it, you can handle all the situations, and essentially you can do it on your own now. much like in the business analyst world, you're probably a business analyst 2 at this point, a senior business analyst 3 maybe, depending how it's structured at your organization. But essentially, you're given the business objective, hey, we need a system that in the long run to accomplish this, or we need to replace this. Go be the business analyst and make this happen. At this point, you fully understand system impacts. You understand when changing what is going to hurt who. You know who to go talk to. You probably have a good understanding of the organization to chase those people down. And not just are you able to do all these techniques, you're also able to meet with these high-level stakeholders, have discussions, have negotiations, help them all reach the same page without somebody having to be there to hold your hand and get you through it. So once you've kind of become the senior chef, you can handle any ingredient, you know how they all work together. You're kind of the king of the kitchen. So at this point, it's no longer about being the best at just cooking or great at cooking, but now it's about expanding that role. So, as a cook, this might mean learning how to coordinate cooking with others. So if you're a chef at your home, this might mean being able to task out different things to maybe your kids or your spouse or your roommates to make sure you still stay coordinated. And at the end of, the cooking time, you still come up with a good dish. Or if you're in a restaurant, this might mean coordinating with your under chefs, giving them tasks and assignments, essentially those entry level, type activities. So that way, when everything comes together, you come out with a good, strong dish. In the business analyst world, this is being a business analyst lead or business analyst manager. Essentially, you're mentoring younger BAs, you're helping them understand what tasks, techniques, activities they need to be performing in this particular project or endeavor to be successful. Sometimes they're on their own and you're just mentoring. Sometimes you're working as a group to come together to put something together. And finally, last but not least, is kind of the biggest evolution as a cook is starting your own restaurant. Starting your own restaurant means you are no longer just thinking about the food. You have to think about the business as a whole. You're thinking about cash flow, revenue, all of those things, not just the food. You're thinking about facilities, all those things, paying employees potentially. And the analogous of that would be an enterprise architect, which is, a business analyst is no longer working in a particular domain or industry. They're responsible for understanding the IT, all of the IT aspects of the entire organization, how the business is run, to make sure those things are well organized and intermingled, and all the parts and pieces flow together to eventually create a great, IT and business environment. I hope that helped clear things up, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Hopefully that will shed some light on the different levels of BA. And we're going to talk about
if
now.
If you have any more questions.
Okay. We're going to talk about now the certifications. There are certifications that you can get. Yes, Abdel?
I have 2 questions here, if you allow me.
Yes.
The first one is by Miriam. Can you give us some example about the tools that business analysis should master?
Tools that the business analyst should master.
Yeah.
There are, when you talk about tools, there are lots of different tools that are available. In the IIBA, there are 50 tools and techniques that the BA has to learn. The BA has to learn about financial analysis, knowing how to do return on investments. The BA has to know how to handle things like problem solving, like root cause analysis, SWOT analysis, those types of things. The business analyst needs to know how to model requirements. The business analyst needs to know how to do things like create a process model, a use case diagram. BAs have to know how to interview, how to elicit information from their customers. So again, the IIBA, when you study the IIBA, there are 50 tools and techniques that are described in the business analysis body of knowledge, and I only gave you examples of a few.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
What?
Yeah. So we do have another question from Mustafa. What's the difference between business analysis and business intelligence in terms of responsibilities?
Well, business intelligence is really more of a specialized area, and business intelligence is about dealing with information and data in order to help facilitate decision making. Business analysis is about looking at the problems and the needs and coming up with solutions. So you can have a business analyst working in a business intelligence environment, and their goal is to define the requirements for business intelligence. So business intelligence is really more of a specialized form of business analysis. Now, notice that one of the certifications that's listed here, this is where you start to combine the role of the BA with business intelligence. In fact, that's a good question because Abdel, we said that we're going to do probably another webinar. The next webinar, we're going to cover business data analytics, which we can talk about business intelligence. So you may want to stay tuned for the dates and time. Stay connected with Abdel to know when we're going to do that next webinar. I think we said something where like mid-December we'd do that next webinar.
Yeah, absolutely, around that date.
Okay. Yep. So we'll do that around that time. Now, so hopefully that answers your question. They are separate roles. One, business intelligence is more specific, more data oriented, more information oriented than the business analyst role. So here are the certifications. The first level is the ECBA. In that video that you just saw, that was the beginning level of your business analysis. The next level for certification is the CCBA. That's the junior level of business analysis. And then the senior level of business analysis is CBAP, CBAP certification. In this particular one right here, you have to have 0 years of experience in order to sit for this exam. For the CCBA, you need about 3.5 years. And this one, you need about 5 years of experience, right, in order to sit for that exam. All right, so when we're going to show you the courses that we have courses that will help you to prepare for the ECBA, the CCBA, and the CBAP. But you can only take them if you have that experience. If you want to be more agile in your business analysis, there's the Agile IIBA AAC, which is Agile Analysis Certification. The Data Analysis Certification, which I have this certification, CBDA, Certified Business Data Analyst. I just got it earlier this year, June, during the lockdown. I was able to study and prepare and get that certification. And then we have some courses on cybersecurity that we offer as well. And that's one of the certifications that you can get if you're interested in cybersecurity. All right, so we're going to be offering, and I think Abdel has, Mr. Yusuf has already posted out a 3-day BA fundamentals. And the 3-day BA fundamentals will allow you to apply for a BA in your, it'll help you to apply business analysis in your current role, and also help you prepare for the entry level certification, which is this first certification. So pretty much if you take that one, you can go and sit for that first level certification for the IIBA. So that's prepare you for that. If you go for the 5-day, right, that's more of a master's in BA, and also people who are at the I would say junior senior level. I said senior level here, but I would also include people that are at the junior level as well for the 5-day. You can get competency certificate from Bridges Consulting, which is our company, and then it will help you to prepare for the ECBA, if you go for that, CCBA, or the CBAP certification. All right. So if you go for the certificate program, 5 days, I don't have an example that I can show you here, but you can get the certificate of completion, or you can get the certificate of competency, which means you have to take a exam from us. You have to take the exam from us in order to get the certificate of competency if you take the business analysis certificate program. I've taught that program. Actually, I've taught it for many years now, this business analysis certificate program, several times in Dubai, several times in Riyadh. I've taught it several times in Singapore. So as far as this particular course right here, it's a well-rounded course, very good course, and something that you may want to invest in. Now, you have to understand, and please don't misunderstand what we are saying here. We're not giving you a certification from the IIBA. We can help you to prepare for that certification. If you're going for the CCBA certification, you need 33,750 hours over the past 7 years. And then here's some other areas. So experience level on this one is about 2.5 years. For the CBAP, you need 7,500 hours of experience over the past 10 years. And that's about 5 years, approximately 5 years, right? For the CCBA, you have to have minimum professional development hours, and that's where we can help you, is to get these hours. If you attend our course, you get these hours, right? We can help you get these hours that you need in order to take those exams, and you need to have these, and you're going to need to have professional development, show that you have professional development, and you're going to have to sign a code of conduct, and you got to pass the exam, right? So we can help you with that. And that's it for what we have. Are there any questions right now about what we've talked about? Any questions? Can I say this before I ask about the question? Let me go back. I'm gonna go back all the way back here.
Yeah.
Why do you want to get, or why would you want to get certification? I like to say it this way, is that there has to be a return on investment. You have to know what the return on investment is. We're not asking you to invest money or time in something that we can't provide a return on investment. In fact, I'd rather, if I can't help you, I don't want your money. I don't want your money if I can't help you. All right. So, but you have to determine what is the value of this to you, right? How is it going to help you? How is it going to help you in your career? When I first got my first certification, PMP certification, I had a value proposition that I knew that I could get from that. I knew what that value proposition is. The value proposition for me was, if I get this certification, then it will allow me to, I'm trying to put something here on the board, it would allow me to do certain things that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do. So I got the PMP certification, right? It took time, it took money to get the certification. But I would say that it's probably been worth maybe $1 million to me, over time. So that's been the value. So the question is this certification going to add value? Yes, it does. It's going to add value to you. You have to determine how it's going to add value and where it's going to add value to you. So I'm not saying that I would not have made that, but I would say that by having that PMP certification, not that I still have all that money in the bank right now, but over time, it's brought in that kind of return. So what is a return on investment? How much time do you have to invest? What is going to be the benefit to you if you invest in the business analysis certificate program? What is the return on investment? Long-term benefit, as well as maybe perhaps some short-term. Short-term, you can use the certificate to take to your HR and maybe get a promotion. Long-term, it may qualify you to go into areas that perhaps you would not have been able to go into if you didn't have that certification. All right, so now I'm going to open it up for questions. That's all I'm going to say now. So thank you very much. Questions, Abdel?
Yeah, I think we don't have question actually now. we will be sharing a link to sign up for a preparation course that can take you to certification later on. So if you're interested, there is a discount, I think, of 40% discount for the 5 participant or candidates, and the other one will be 25%. So the link will be shared in the chat, and you can sign up. The batch will be in January 2021, and the date will be set later on. So if we don't have a question, so that's all.
No questions?
Yeah, I think there is no question till now so far. So in this case,
Okay.
we tell you thank you very much, Doctor.
All right.
So I think we don't have any question actually. So it's all about now sharing the link later on. And
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much for everyone, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So we are not live now. I stopped the live.
Okay. How many people?